Viewers, make sure you hit the like button and make sure you are subscribing. Any questions you've got for Ben, feel free to send them in. We'll get up as many as we can. Moving slightly on from Manchester United, but talking about Chelsea at the same time. Big links in the last few days to Kobbie Mainu to Chelsea. And we saw one that came through last night that said potentially they could move this month.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I think Chelsea's priority is in other areas at the moment. Although Romeo Lavia is injured, you still have a situation where Andre Santos is going to return in the long run from Santos, and he's doing very well. And then when Lavia's fit, you got Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Leslie Okwuchukwu is also to come back on loan as well from Southampton, where he's not been playing that much. So come the summer, they're going to have a lot of midfielders. And if you're Kobbie Mainu and Chelsea, you have to think about whether that's a priority position, because what they won't want is another Conor Gallagher type situation where they have a top player that loves Chelsea and there's not room for him. And I think there's such a high ceiling for all of those Chelsea midfielders when fit, that you could make an argument that if Kobbie Mainu joined, he wouldn't necessarily go straight into that Chelsea starting 11. So I think we've got an element of games going on. I can certainly confirm that Chelsea like Kobbie Mainu, but what I can't confirm is that they're intent or active at the moment to try and sign him right now. And at the same time, you've got the player who wants to give preference to staying at Manchester United. And there's been some, perhaps frustration is a fair word, from the Mainu camp, that the prioritization at Manchester United has been given towards the Ahmad renewal. And the expectation, by the way, is that Ahmad signs today formally for his contract extension, and then Mainu will be next. So I think what will likely happen is that the Chelsea interest will be there. Nothing will happen from Chelsea in January, but the Mainu camp will be able to leverage that to escalate a new contract at Manchester United. And the player's not agitating to leave. He wants to stay. He wants to sign a new deal. I think Chelsea probably know that deep down as well. So it would be a huge surprise if Kobbie Mainu leaves Manchester United for Chelsea or anywhere else this month.
Yeah, I agree. I feel there is a little bit of gamesmanship going on here from multiple parties, and there's always reasons for that. But yeah, I'm not particular. I'm personally not that concerned that he'll leave, but I know that was a story that was trending over the last few days, and people wanted some kind of updates surrounding that. Are Chelsea looking to do anything else this month, as far as you're aware?
Yeah, Chelsea are looking to do a lot this month. They are focusing on a flurry of outgoings. Of course, you have Carney Chukwuemeka and Ben Chilwell, that are the two major ones that they need to resolve for slightly different circumstances. Chilwell getting the wage off the book, or at least getting him out on loan and having some minutes. And that was the intent in the summer as well. Chukwuemeka, a bit unlucky really, because he is very highly rated, but he's in that very fluid position where he's competing against Cole Palmer, João Felix, possibly Christopher Nkunku, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall if he stays. So I think Chelsea would be looking ideally for a permanent solution there. But if somebody wants Chukwuemeka on a permanent deal, they're going to have to either meet the £40 million release clause or match it. And that's difficult for some of the Italian clubs in particular that have been looking. Chelsea may cede if they don't find a solution, and a loan with option or obligation is not entirely out of the question. And that's where West Ham are one to watch. And I'd also keep an eye on West Ham for Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall as well. Now, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall is a surprising one because he obviously only joined over the summer for 30 million. He played under Enzo Maresca at Leicester. He's liked by his teammates. He's known by the manager. But again, he falls into that same number 8 position where Cole Palmer, João Felix, all the players I mentioned a moment ago are dominating. And his minutes are going to be numbered. And the player ultimately wants to play more football. So I think Chelsea will be very understanding of the Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall situation if the right opportunity presents itself. I'd keep an eye on West Ham, possibly Fulham. And remember, Brighton wanted the player over the summer. So we'll have to wait and see whether they rekindle their interest. You've got Harvey Vale, who has European interest, and also Sunderland chasing him. His contract expires in the summer. So January is a good opportunity for Chelsea to get a nominal fee for Harvey Vale and get him out the door. And then we hear a lot about various other names like Christopher Nkunku. Yes, there is a possibility that Nkunku could leave, but only if the player really pushes for the move And Axel Disasi might be another one that Chelsea are open to offers for, especially if they bring in a defensive reinforcement. Then incomings for Chelsea, I think we're looking at a defender, a centre-back that perhaps can play right-back as well, which is where the logic of recalling Trevor Chalobah comes from. You got Mark Gay, and Chelsea are interested in re-signing him. They're exploring that possibility actively now. But they're not going to pay 70 million or close, which was the number quoted to Newcastle over the summer. My understanding is that Chelsea's valuation of Mark Gay is south of 50 million. So that's probably not enough to get a deal done in January, but we'll have to wait and see, because this might be the last opportunity that Palace can really get serious money for Gay, because he's only got 18 months left of his deal. You've got Ousmane Diomande at Sporting, who Chelsea like, not possible in January. But remember, they've brought back Aaron Anselmino from a loan spell at Boca. So if he acclimatizes and doesn't go out on loan, and if, and it is an if, Wesley Fofana returns a bit sooner than Enzo Maresca hinted, maybe Chelsea wait for that centre-back reinforcement and move instead in the summer. But I expect them to be quite active in the final 3 weeks of the window. And then, you know, again, we have this situation, not for the same reasons as Manchester United, which are financial, but for squad purposes and balance. If someone goes out, Chelsea become more likely to bring in. So if Nkunku leaves, then they escalate that need to find an attacker. And we know that they really like and are serious about Liam Delap. If Mikhailo Mudrik's B sample comes back as expected in January and it's positive and he's given a substantial ban, then do they move for a winger, even though at the moment they don't really need one? And that's where Jamie Gittins or Nico Williams comes in. So there's a few moving parts at Chelsea, but the first priority is that flurry of outgoings.
Which makes a lot of sense, as you say. Different reasoning for United, but essentially the same outcome needed, players to move on. You mentioned Delap there, and everybody's raving about him. He's had a fantastic season so far in the Premier League at Ipswich. Is that a real serious option for Chelsea? And who else is looking at potentially moving for the young striker this January?
Yeah, naturally, a lot of people are looking at Delap. I think the player's preference is to stay in the Premier League. Ipswich don't want to sell mid-season, so maybe more of a summer saga. Chelsea are the most serious of the suitors at the moment, and the feeling I hear from sources and within the wider industry is that it's very likely that they will make a summer approach for Delap. Maresca and a series of Chelsea's recruitment team know Delap very well, and he's exactly the kind of profile they're looking for. It's not to say that he would immediately supplant somebody like Nicholas Jackson. There's big faith in the Chelsea striker at the moment, but the feeling remains that they're one short with a number 9, whether that's a starting number 9 competition for Nicholas Jackson or somebody a bit more fluid that can play alongside Jackson or behind. But what stands out to Chelsea about Delap is not just his high ceiling, but the way that he holds up the ball, the fact that he can play a little bit deeper, his coolness, his fluidity in taking to the Premier League, in moving off the ball, in dealing with pressure. Like you look at the 2 penalties that he scored against Fulham and Chelsea, he's exactly the kind of player that would fit within Chelsea's system. So definitely one to watch for Chelsea, very possibly one to watch for Manchester United as well. Newcastle are a slightly newer suitor that are looking for another striker. But obviously, if Alexander Isak stays, then Delap may be put off by that move because it's likely that he'd be playing second fiddle in his favoured position. And then we should just point out that in theory, Manchester City have both buyback and matching rights as well. But I'm not hearing any indication yet that they're considering entering that race, and probably even less so if they end up in this window signing Omar Marmoush to help support Erling Haaland.